I met the founder of Whole Foods, John Mackey, when I was 18, and I argued with him about nutrition, which was a dumb thing to do because I knew virtually nothing about nutrition, and he was the founder and CEO of Whole Foods and had been for like 30 years. But he listened to me. He listened to everything that I had to say because I was really passionate about what I was saying. I was passionate about my ideas. My ideas were completely wrong, I now know in retrospect, but he is the type of person that would stop and actually listen to everything that I was saying. It taught me a lot about how people who are really, really high up think about the world. One of the attributes that they all share is that they listen to any idea, no matter where it comes from and who it comes from. Now I run my own company that does $3 million a year in revenue, and I listen to everybody who has ideas. I look at what their track record is, of course, and where they're coming from and why they're saying what they're saying, but anybody can have a good idea. A lot of the best ideas for our company have come from people that are completely outside of our industry, or people that you wouldn't necessarily give the time of day to, people that may not be in the positions where you'd be like, oh, that person obviously knows what they're talking about. So you can learn things from people at all different levels, from all different walks of life, from all different backgrounds. And that is one of the attributes that I think people who are really, really successful have. People that are not successful think that they already know everything, or they only want to listen to a certain group of people. They only want to listen to people who they think they want to be like, and that really silos off the information that they can gather. Toyota is also famous for this. Toyota is famous for taking any idea, and anybody can introduce an idea and have an idea that actually gets used within the company, and then they reward people for it. So like an example of this is that at Toyota, somebody realized that during break time, everybody goes into the break rooms and they could turn off the lights in the factory. And if they turn off the lights in the factory, it saves something like $5 million a year. That person was an assembly line worker, and they gave that assembly line worker not only a huge bonus, but a free car and like a whole bunch of other stuff. So they reward people for their ideas. And I think that is something that truly successful people do. Whereas people that are struggling and not getting anywhere, they think they already know where they need to go. They think they know how to get there, and they don't listen to ideas that come from outside. So that is a huge trait that I've seen of people who are successful and that continue to get ahead. And the mindset that they have, which is basically ideas can come from anywhere. You always have to be listening. You always have to be paying attention. Of course, you have to take it with a grain of salt and see why people are suggesting those ideas. Like sometimes people just want to complain. You don't want to listen to that. But if somebody actually has a legitimate idea, or they have a legitimate emotion that's behind an idea, you want to see why that is the case, and then see what you can do about it or how it can help you. The second thing that I noticed about people that are really successful is that they do not have to have immediate feedback. I think this is something that really, really sets people apart that are successful versus people that get stuck. People that get stuck want immediate feedback. They want to know exactly right now, how am I going to make money right now? How am I going to get my business get off the ground right now? How am I going to get to my next follower count goal now? Whereas the people that are thinking longer term, they're thinking about, okay, what are the systems that I'm building up? What are the things that are repeatable? How am I going to build an infrastructure where this thing can actually grow and proliferate without me or with whatever it may be? They're thinking about things in a longer term structure. They're not just thinking about, oh, how do I get what I want right now? And I think that is something that really sets people apart, because I'm thinking about any platform, right? You take YouTube, you take Instagram, you take TikTok, you take any platform you're trying to get started on, it's going to take you weeks and weeks and weeks. And I interview lots of successful people today who are content creators, which is kind of the new wave of entrepreneurship. And they all tell me the same thing, which is like, it takes 3 years to get going on Instagram. It takes 5 years to get going on this other platform. And the people that are stuck, who are constantly in this cycle of like starting and restarting, they're the ones where they just want everything to happen right now. And if it doesn't happen within like 3 days or a month or however long they give it, they give up. Whereas the people that are pushing ahead, they are getting really far ahead, they're able to think about how things could actually play out in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. One of the founders of Stripe, Patrick Collison, was talking about how once you get 10 years into a business, you start to think about the next 10 years. Earlier on, it's hard to think like that. But I do think that the people who can see what 10 years might look like and have a vision for that are the ones who end up getting ahead, because they can have this longer term mindset around things and not get so wrapped up in the ups and downs. Of course, everybody wants immediate feedback. They want things to go really quickly. But honestly, even if things do really go quickly, like I listened to a creator this week who was talking about how one of their first videos got 20 million views on TikTok, but that was not enough to actually propel them. You got to get 20 million views over and over and over again, where you got to get, whatever amount of views you need in order to actually drive into your business You got to be able to do that repeatably over many years. That person has now been doing it like 5 or 6 years. So it's not just about like, oh, can I get one huge rush and one huge success? I think that's what people don't understand is like, even if you did get that thing, you got that viral video, you had that one immediate success, it's not really about that. It's what can you do on repeat over a really long period of time. And of course, you're going to have times when it goes up and down and you're going to have wins and losses, right? You think about Amazon. Amazon almost went bankrupt in the early 2000s, late 1990s, because they had already had huge success. They were like a really large company at that point, but there was a number of factors that didn't play out for them. But when you listen to Jeff Bezos talking about that time, he's talking about how he was just focused on the long term. He's like, look, the business was getting fundamentally stronger, fundamentally better. The underlying metrics were continuing to improve, and that's what I was focused on. Whereas somebody that is not thinking like that is just not going to be Jeff Bezos, because you're not going to be able to think about how things actually play out in the longer term. So I think that's another big thing. Is like they're much more focused on the longer term view than they are on just like, how's today going? Why am I not getting success right now? And I think that is one real big mindset shift that sets people apart. The next one that sets people apart hugely that I see with people who are really successful is they are constantly looking for, how can I be helpful to you? Of course, they have boundaries, like depending on, what the transaction is, what the situation is. Like if somebody is paying them nothing, they're not going to give them a ton of time. If somebody's paying them a lot, they're going to give them more time. You kind of have to gauge it based on what you actually have capacity to do, because you can't overextend yourself to people that are not your customers, because then you'll have no time for people who are your customers. But people that are really successful, they're constantly looking for, what can I do for you? It's like that quote from Lion King. Ask not, I guess it got stolen by the president, but it's the quote from Lion King where it's like, a king asks what he can do, not what he can take. And I think that's really the mindset that a lot of people who are in that are really highly successful. They think about, what can I do that can be helpful to other people versus what can I take? Whereas people that I see that are just struggling and clawing and never really make it off the bottom, they're the ones where it's like every time you talk to them, you just feel like they are trying to get something from you. They're trying to get information from you, trying to get connection from you. They're trying to get shout out from you. And it's overwhelming and exhausting as somebody who has been able to break through in my situation when I encounter people like that, because you're just like, look, even if I did that thing for you, that's not going to help you. It's not going to get you where you need to go. You have to build up many positive connections before you're going to get your flywheel going, and you're actually going to be able to reach the levels of success that you want to reach as a person. So when you come in like that, you're just making yourself stay stuck, because not only would it not work if that person that you asked for that thing did the thing for you, that's not going to help you. It's not going to get you where you need to go. But what you actually need is many connections. And it's so refreshing to be around somebody that does invite you in or does help you with a situation, because they have learned that, like, hey, that's what matters. And of course, you have to be the type of person that's not going to then go in, like the what do you call the the fox in the hen house, right? Like, you have me the fox in the hen house, where it's like somebody does give you an advantage, and then you go in and try to just like take. You can't do that either. You have to be the type of person that's also giving. But honestly, I think when people are thinking about what can I give, those are the people where I see like they just continue to have those levels and levels and levels of success over time. And those are the attributes. Another one of the big attributes. Another big attribute that I start to see with people that are successful over a long period of time is this ability to compartmentalize or to just process through bad situations. There are always bad situations that happen. If you're running any sort of company that is going to be successful, there's going to be messiness that happens. There's going to be things that are emotionally taxing. And the people that I see that are able to do it over a long period of time, they build themselves a system or a structure, whatever it may be. A support system of people is usually what it ends up looking like, where they have people that they can go to and talk to and diffuse those situations. Because inevitably, if you're going to start something and it becomes successful, there's going to be stuff that really is tough. And it's all going to be emotional. That's just how it goes. Like the tactical, practical stuff, not that hard. It's going to be emotional stuff. It's going to be the customer that says the thing that just cuts right through, where you're just like, dang, that is my deepest fear. And you just said that that's going to happen to us. And it's like this constant threat. I think that's probably the biggest term that exemplifies it. I think people learn to deal with threat really well. And the way that they do it is they have a strong support system for themselves. people that they can process through, people that they can talk to, peers, people that are higher than them, people that are lower than them, kind of all over the place, where you just have a way to diffuse the threats that constantly come in if you're going to have a successful business, because that's just honestly how it goes. That's how it goes. Let's see what else we got here. Fixating on results. I think that's another big thing. Like, the people that I see who are successful over a long period of time, they're the people where they do start to learn to love the craft of it. They learn to love whatever it is they're working on. Right now, it's a lot of content. That's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm working on. That's what a lot of people around me are working on. That's the people that are really getting ahead, are the people that are doing really well on content. We are in an attention economy. And in the attention economy, it's all about how crafted can your content be? How attention getting can it be? How much can you grab people's attention? Because that's what the algorithms like. If the algorithms like it, then you're going to get shown. If you're going to get shown, then you have a good product on the back end. That's just kind of how it goes now. So, but with content, I feel like the people that I see really going after it, they're the people where it's just like, they love it. They love the idea of creating the next great piece. They love the idea of improving each piece one after another. They love the idea of like, oh, I had this idea and I talked to this person, and I read this book, and it all came through, and then I made a good piece of content. I'd throw myself in this boat. I think I really love to read books and then kind of see how that fits into content. And then it's like, oh, that would make a great story, and maybe that would fit into this format, and that's how I can tell the story like this. You kind of start to learn like, oh, okay, here's how all these things in my life can factor into the big thing that I'm working on. And then you kind of start to learn to love that process. And I think the people that do learn to be sustainable over time and successful over time are the ones where they really love the process. Because if you don't love the process, then it's just about the results. And the results are so variable. There's so many things that happen in the world. There's so many things that affect your industry. There's so many things that affect your customers. There's so many things where it's like you cannot control the outcome of today or this week or this month or this year. It's like the Bill Gates quote, like, people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, underestimate what they can do in 10 years. But I don't think you can really do something for 10 years if you don't actually love what you're working on, because it's just too hard to keep it going, because you're not going to see the results over any 1 year period. I would say in business, what I've observed is that people that do stick with it for 10 years are successful. It's kind of like the thing in the stock market, where in the stock market, if you leave your money in for 20 years, you will always have a gain. If you leave it in for 10 years, it's like 80% of the time it's up. If you leave it in for 5 years, it's like 70% of the time it's up. If you leave it in for 1 year, it's like 60% of the time it's up, something like that. Don't quote me on that. But I think with business, that time frame is 10 years, where it's like, if you keep at it for 10 years, if you keep perfecting and getting better at your craft and paying attention to all the aspects of what goes into building your company, and you keep working on it for 10 years, over 10 years, the likelihood that you will reach a level of success that you wouldn't have kind of really ever envisioned in the beginning, where it's like, to look back, you're like, wow, it's kind of incredible that we're here now. I believe that time period is 10 years, but I don't know how you can get there. And I have not seen that with really anybody, unless they are the type of people that learn to enjoy and really love what it is they're working on. Of course, they're very strategic and they're thoughtful and they're analytical. All those things are requirements to run a successful company, but they also learn to love what it is they're working on. Last one here, which kind of circles back to the very beginning, is thinking that you have all the answers. I think I'm constantly reminded of this myself as an entrepreneur. For a long time, just a story that the massive mistake that I made was I didn't get on the social media train early enough. In the early days of Interact, people that were using social media at that time in 2013, 2014, it was very just sensational. It was like the early days of the internet, social media. I mean, it was the early days of social media, and the people that were getting big on social media were just like these sensationalist people doing pranks, lighting stuff on fire. It was like this very flighty medium. And we did have a few customers that used it, who did use our product as well, and their products or their social media presence was just so like entertainment based. It was hard to see how that would ever translate over into a real business. And so we kind of wrote it off. I wrote it off, and we focused on people that were doing SEO, because at the time, those were the people who were really thoughtful and serious and putting good information out in the world. And we focus on that group. So we focus on, okay, quizzes for websites, because if you have great SEO and you have a good website and then you put a quiz on there, then it increases your conversion rate. That was the whole premise of it. We built a really successful company off of that. But I wasn't paying attention, and I thought I knew the answers. I thought I knew this is the model. Okay, if you find people that are really good at SEO, you get them to build a good quiz, put it on the website. It works. It's repeatable, which is great. We started to scale up in 2018, 2019. Then 2020 hit, and we went through the pandemic, and the shift to social media accelerated really, really fast, and we were not ready for it. We were not there. We were not showing up. We were not having a good presence amongst social media creators, and we only had the presence amongst that old kind of guard of the SEO stuff. And then with AI and chatbots, SEO and social and search traffic just kind of dropped precipitously fast, and we were not ready. So then we had to scramble, and now we're making up ground and building back up and understanding how quizzes can be used on social media. Luckily, we've had some amazing customers who have been super helpful in helping us to understand how you best use a quiz on social media, where it's like you have reels that are set up, and then you use a DM automation to send people the quiz link, and then the quiz link goes through to interact, and then that gets people onto your email list. And so for creators that are building up their email list as a way of having consistent communication with their customers, because social media can be up and down, and then also just email is just a good value add. Like if you have a great social following, then email is a great value add. But anyways, we missed that boat, and now we're having to scramble and come back. And I think that's my mistake, because I thought I knew what it was going to be. I thought I knew what the future was going to look like, where it's like these very thoughtful, content driven, like meaning lots of good writing, beautiful website, all that kind of stuff. That was going to be the future. And it wasn't. The future ended up actually being that the smartest, most thoughtful, most creative, best storytellers, they're on Instagram, they're on TikTok, they're on YouTube. It's all video. And so that was my mistake. And now we're having to come back around and rebuild within that arena. And I think that people who are really successful don't think that they know it all. I think the most dangerous thing is what you know. The least dangerous thing is what you don't know. And if you admit that you don't know things, then I think you can stay further and further ahead without having that kind of mistake happen that I had. So I think that's where I'll end it, which is kind of the same as the beginning. It's like the same with John Mackey, where it's like he's listening to this 18-year-old who feels very strongly about nutrition and is completely wrong because, maybe that 18-year-old does know something that you don't know. And I think that's what I missed. I missed the people that were coming to me and telling me, hey, look, this is going to be the way that creators and entrepreneurs build their presence in the future. It's not going to be this old model where it's all SEO traffic. It's going to move over to social and to video. And I should have listened. So I think to wrap this up, where it started and where it ends is the same thing, which is I think you just have to listen and you have to stay with an open mind while at the same time learning to really love what you do. And of course, consistency and all that kind of stuff, I feel like are just givens. Like consistency over 10 years, you're going to figure it out. But you do also have to kind of just stay open-minded to, what's coming along, what's new. And that's kind of my reflections on meeting a whole bunch of people who are, I guess, John Mackey's billionaire, probably. Billionaires, millionaires, people that are scaling really fast. And I've also met a whole bunch of people that never got off the ground. And I think these are kind of the dichotomies that I see in terms of the way that they approach business and the way that they approach their practices and the way that their mind is oriented.